Okay, so for this final project, there were three parts. Part one asked us to create a retail item class. So I have my header here for that. And in our retail item class, we have three properties in our data field. We have a string called description, an integer for the number of items on hand, so units on hand, and a double for the price. I also included a scanner object in my data field just so I can access it in any of the methods in my class. I have two constructors here. I have my no argument constructor and then my constructor that includes all three values of my data field. I could have created more constructors, but I didn't want it to get super repetitive with, a total of 8 constructors here. It's not as necessary because I do have all of the mutators I need. So when I do put in arguments, though, it's going to set the current instance to whatever the value was inputted in the constructor. For each of my variables in my data field, I have a mutator method, which gives the user the opportunity to set or edit the value. So I have set description, set units on hand, and set price. I have all of these as void, and I also have the input actually coming in from the method itself instead of applying it from the main method in the test class. I thought it just kind of made it a little shorter on the rest of my code. And then I have my accessor methods that just display the values. So get description, get units on hand, and get price. So that is my retail class, my retail items class. And I needed to create a program that used it. And I know I was specifically challenged to think about what a user or customer would want out of this program. So I made a program that lets you, that gives you a menu. So I'll scroll down to my menu. On our menu, it gives you the option to display all of the items in the inventory. It gives you the option to add an item, to edit an item, and to exit. So in my menu method, I ask for the user to submit their choice, and I return that with my input.next.character at 0. So if I go back to main, when that happens, I'm going to go ahead and automatically put that into uppercase. And as long as the value they did not put in is D, right? I don't want D because D is exit. It'll go through my while loop where I have my switch decision structure. So if it has A, then it displays inventory, which is a separate method. If it's B, it adds the inventory. If it's C, it edits. And if they type in anything else, it'll show them an error message, and then they'll just choose an option again. So after the switch, I have giving them the opportunity to see the menu again and change their option. Before that even happens, though, in my program, I created an array list to hold retail items objects or to hold references to retail item objects. And I specifically did an array list because I wanted an array, but I didn't want a limited amount of space. So array lists have great features where I can just keep adding to them, which helps with my add inventory option. I also put in a global scanner object just so whenever I ask for input, I don't have to keep doing a new object for each method. Okay, so I also initialized the original data that we were given in our program specifications. We were told 3 specific retail item objects that we needed to create. So I made that first before actually asking the user for what they want to do with the program. So if I jump down to some of my other methods, my display inventory method, if they choose this, it just has a for loop that's going to go through every referenced object in my array list and it will show the item number along with the description. It'll show the quantity and the price. So if there are 7 objects referenced in my array list, it'll show all 7. The other method is my add inventory method. So I had to add a new retail item object into my array list. And then I used my, well, first I had to use the get method from array list class. And I had to do inventory size -1 to get the correct index for the newest reference object. And then I used my mutators from my retail item class. For my edit inventory, I needed an edit menu so that they could choose what specifically they wanted to edit. And it does repeat through the menu with a while loop so that they can change more than one thing, or they can just change one thing. So this is very similar to my original edit menu, except the options are different. The options are the specific variables in the data field for a retail item class or object. So the description, quantity on hand, or price. So that comes into play in my edit inventory method. So first I ask them to put the item number that they want to edit, and I'll hold that in an integer. But because of the index in my array list, I do have to make sure when I actually call to that item, I do the I-1. Before I ask them what they want to edit, I actually display all of the details on the retail item, just so they can review it before they make any changes. And then after that happens, again, I'm going to call my edit menu and ask the user for whatever choice they want. And while I'm at it, I'm automatically putting it to uppercase just to make the switch menu easier to navigate. So again, D was exit, so my while loop has the condition that while it's not D, it's going to do this. So in my switch conditions, if they put A, that meant I was going to set a new description. So inventory.get I-1 references the specific retail item that they wanted to change, and then set description obviously is going to change the description. Same with B, it's going to set the units on hand, and C is going to set the price. And my default, again, is another invalid option. So that is program 1. On part 2, we were tasked with making a cash register class. So the cash register class had 2 parts to the data field. It needed a retail item object, and it needed a quantity. And just like before, I have a scanner object here just so I can use that in any of the methods in the class. And again, like previously, I have a no argument constructor, and I have an argument constructor with both of the properties in the data field covered. Again, I have mutators. So for the set item mutator, I have it where they're setting the description, the units on hand, and oh, that's a typo. That should be price. I know that in a perfect world, or in a realistic world, there would be a barcode scanner or a serial code number that a user could put in, but because we were told to put this in a separate program, this was kind of my way to adapt. And then obviously with the set quantity, that's again getting input from the user to set the quantity. My accessors, where it will return the quantity and it will return the item. Those are kind of self-explanatory. And then I had 3 calculation methods needed for the cash register class. One where it creates the subtotal, which is just the quantity times the item price. One where it calculates the tax, which is 0.06 because it's 6% times the subtotal. And then another where it calculates the total, which is subtotal plus tax. So in my get tax and my get total, I referenced the instance methods already within the class to calculate those. The specific program that goes along with my cash register class, again, because this is a separate program and it's not an actual cash register, I had to kind of adapt. So I asked for a quantity. Obviously, I need a quantity in order to create my cash register object. But because of the retail item, for simplicity's sake, all I did was create a retail item and then I set the price for it. So in the end, I only asked the user for the quantity and the price. Again, if this were an actual cash register, you could scan a barcode or type in a serial code that would connect with the item and get the price for you. But since this specific program doesn't have a database of retail items to pull from, I can't really do that. Then I created my cash register object that is called purchase, and I put in the item I created and the quantity I got from the user. And then I just display the subtotal by calling my get subtotal method, the tax by calling my get tax method, and the total by getting my get total method. So that is program 2. Part 3 wanted us to create a sales receipt class that would take a retail item and a quantity, so very similar to cash register, and it would create a text file for the receipt. So it's going to calculate a lot of the same things as the cash register file, or the cash register class, except it puts it on a file. So I actually had to import several things for that to happen. So again, I need a retail item in a quantity. I have my scanner object for when I need inputs, specifically from my mutators. Again, like before, I have my 2 constructors, my no argument and my arguments. I have my mutators where I can set the item or set the quantity. And I have a void method called getReceipt where it's just going to display on the console what the values of the receipt are. And I mainly did this for my proof of existence that it works, because I can verify it works with a text file that's generated on my computer, but it's hard to prove to you that the text file actually worked out correctly and not me just typing it in. So all this does is print out exactly the same thing that I put on my file in my next method. So it prints out what the receipt would look like on the actual receipt. It has the price, the quantity, subtotal, tax, and the total. And again, it calls, no, it does not, because the sales receipt class that I made did not ask for, no, because we pulled from the retail item class and not the cash register class. I didn't have pre-created functions that get you the subtotal, tax, and total. So I did actually do the calculations on the side here, but that was not a major issue. So the big method in this class is the one where it creates a file, a text file, and then it prints out all that same information onto the text file. So I have right here throws Java IO exception, and essentially I needed to have that in order to catch any errors with the input or output when this program is running. Then I created a file object, and not only does it create the object, but it also creates the text file on my computer, and here I have it called receipt.txt. I had to create a print writer file so that I could actually write onto receipt.txt. And once I had those created, then I just needed to use the print writer methods in order to put actual text onto this file. So I have my print writer object is called output. So output.println or printf will actually take whatever I put inside the parentheses and put it on the file. So it shows sales receipt, it shows unit price, it shows quantity, subtotal, sales tax, total, just like it shows up on the console when I run it. And then really important is to make sure I included this output.close at the end. It saves, essentially just saves all of the information that was written onto the text file, kind of like saving before you close on a Word document. And I do want to, I guess, prove that it actually did a text file. So if I go to the project folder and I open up receipt, here is what it looks like on my text file. So again, because I needed to create a separate test class for my sales receipt class to be used in, I have program 3. And again, it's super simple because I really just needed a quantity and I just needed a price in order to calculate my receipt. I do want to point out I had to use my throw Java IO exception again, just again to catch any errors with inputs and outputs when it creates this file. So again, I asked for a quantity from a user. I asked for a price from a user because I don't have a real cash register or a database to pull from here. Then I created my sales receipt object. And like I said a little bit earlier, I did print receipt, so this shows up on the console when I'm running it, the program. And then, no, print receipt is the text file, sorry. And get receipt shows up on the console while I'm running it. So the print receipt creates the text file and puts all that receipt information on it. Get receipt shows it on the console. And those are my 3 programs. And I can understand how this would actually be better off all in one program, but I had to follow the specifications on the final project. And that's it.